Next, I'm going to present number 8, which is the BOE.
Is that the prior portion of the
Yes. At this point, I've pulled out some of the things I'm not sure
I understand.
where to do. I'd like to show you claims exhibit number 8. You recognize that document?
I do.
Can you identify that document for
I
me?
can. It's the public information portion of the voter registration. Information of myself here in Madison County.
I'd like to admit this is exhibit number 8. I'd like to ask you, sir, when the last time you voted in the Madison County election would have been?
2008.
Did you vote anywhere else in the 2010 election?
I've never voted anywhere else but Madison County.
When you moved back in October 1st of 2008, I'm sorry, when you moved back to Madison County according to your testimony, October 1st of 2013, did you and your wife vacate the Buncombe County residence?
My wife is still in the Buncombe County residence.
When you moved into the home into the residence that we're referring to in Madison County in the record, how often would you stay there during the month of October?
I'm there the majority of the time.
So you would not spend the night in your marital home, you were here.
That's right. I've been back to my marital home, but my wife and I actually separated on September 27th or 28th of that day. We still are close when I go back. I have access, but I'm pretty well for the most part been in Madison County.
So you and your wife separated in September?
That's correct.
And so we're referencing year 2013, correct?
Referencing 2013, yes.
Thank you.
I'll show you what's been marked as exhibit number 9. Can you read the caption of that picture, please?
Here,
Yes, it's the same one, it's just blown up so it's reading.
meet the family of elect John Ledford for sheriff who made me who I am today. I really missed my father today when I filed for the office of sheriff. I could not have made it over the years without him. Special thanks to my family, my woman, wife, and our good friends out on Red Page for their support.
Could you pass that to?
Sure.
I think that's all it is.
Mr. W.J. Wickraman, do we have a copy of that in our?
Not, sir.
Okay.
picture?
Yes, sir.
Well, his father's still alive.
Actually, he can identify it. I think you guys are the posting list, sir.
Mr. Chairman, we got board members asking questions, long
Let's, we do need to, unless we're asking for a point of clarification.
I've let the witness identify it and describe the pictures. Please, correct.
We have posted this, Mr. Chairman.
Certainly, sir.
Please, go right ahead.
If I may, Ms. Blake, you're maintaining then that this was posted on February the 10th of 2014?
I was going to actually show, I was going to show it to you all and then ask him to address it. I hadn't concluded my pictures yet, not any questions yet of that picture.
Answer his question.
I'm sorry.
Just looking over your shoulder.
Could you, one more, I apologize.
No, that's not all right. I just wanted you to authenticate that picture, tell us who's in it, what it is, and the date of the posting.
Okay, this is a family photograph taken at the closing of our business on Highway 19, probably in 2008. Somebody help me out here. But, posting is in February of 2014.
And what site is that posting on?
It's a Lake John Level Facebook site.
And is that indeed the posting that is on that site, sir?
It is. I imagine it is.
I wish to admit that into evidence.
I have no objection.
Sir, I'm not going to get into your marital relationship. I just wanted to clarify that you did address your wife in that posting, is that correct?
Yes, she's not in that photograph, but she does support me for the officership. So,
That's all I'm going to ask.
yes, sir, that's fine. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I could have just a moment. Oh, thank you. So, sir, it'd be your testimony that you all separated in September and that October 1st, Madison County became your primary residence.
That's correct.
And you would go back to see your wife from time to time, but that you would all have to be separated.
We are, in fact, separated.
I'm going to ask you, do you recall November of this past year?
I do.
Okay. Did you spend the night back in Buncombe County November 5th of this past year?
I would have no way of knowing, sir.
November 6th,
No, I doubt that.
7th,
I would doubt that.
8th,
I would doubt that.
9th, 10th, I need a response for the record, sir.
I'd have no way of knowing, but I know I was back in Buffalo County over the holidays, Thanksgiving.
The 11th,
I have no way of knowing that.
12th,
There again, no way of knowing.
13th,
No way of knowing.
14th,
I have no way of knowing that.
15th,
There again, no way.
16th,
No way of knowing.
17th,
No recollection, no way of knowing what they,
18th,
no, sir.
19th.
Same response, no way of knowing.
You just say that.
Same.
20,
What day was Thanksgiving on?
I think it was the following week, sir.
Okay, same,
21st,
same,
22nd,
same,
23rd,
same,
24th,
same,
25th,
same,
26th,
same.
27th. That was Thanksgiving.
Okay, probably if I was in Buckingham County, I know on Thanksgiving.
28th,
Maybe on the 28th.
29th,
No, I don't think so.
30th,
I don't think so.
December 1st,
Was not there in Buckingham County on the 1st.
December 2nd,
Was not,
3rd.
was not.
You were not there, you don't recall?
I was not there. I know I was not there the 1st through the 4th.
Where were you the first week?
Raleigh.
Okay. Could you have been there the 5th night?
No, I don't think so.
You don't think so, or you don't recall?
I don't recall, but
6th night? No, you don't?
no, I don't think so.
Okay. 7th,
I wouldn't think so.
8th,
Would not think so.
9th,
Would not think so.
Mr. Laws, as a point of procedure, have an affidavit regarding pictures on the dates that I have just presented, or that I've just discussed, of the residents in Madison County in question. I understand that I am submitting these with an affidavit, and I believe you've been given the board prior instructions as to the weight of that evidence. Is that still the case?
Mr. Chairman, I believe he's got a witness on the stand, first and foremost. Could not introduce an affidavit while we have a witness on the stand, number one. Number two, I've not been afforded the opportunity to look at that affidavit. But
I was asking a procedural question before I handed it to you. I was just trying to figure that out.
I in all probability am going to strenuously object to an affidavit that purports things of a witness I don't have the opportunity to examine. But I think that's a battle to be fought later after this witness.
Mr. Laws, I'd like to know the rule on the use of affidavits.
Affidavits of the statute can be offered at appropriate time.
I'm going to show those accounts of affidavits.
Mr. Laws, and again, I request the board to issue a subpoena for Michael Garrison, Chief Deputy Sheriff of Madison County. That witness is available. And if he cares to opine, he needs to be sworn, placed under oath, and opining from that chair.
Team meeting.
Folks, we're going to take a 10-minute break.
say right there, the first day, but that's the other way it's supposed to be.
More realistic question.
You start it's the same thing.
Thank you.
I think I'm going to go to the bathroom. Don didn't poison us, did he?
Yeah, I meant to ask you.
You got
Mine
any
was
term?
7 months.
Huh?
I've got some breast leaves. That's all I've got.
This is a lot lower than that.
And look here,
Yeah.
the reason I'm doing that is I can't meet you.
John, you want to stand
I
up
quit.
Thanks, Costa.
Got habit these days.
Yeah.
I chewed tobacco for 20 years.
You want some water or anything?
No, I'm great.
Chewed
Thank you.
for 43 years. And I quit
It's not even better than it used to be.
And I've chewed all this gum.
Yeah, it's pretty rough stuff.
Tell me just a little
I chewed gum for a while. I tried to take, I mean, not making, I'd go to bed. I'd clamp down, and
Well-
they'd be a pain.
See, this is sugarless gum.
Does it ever hurt you to take a little bit? Maybe.
Of course, my teeth was rotted out.
We see that affidavit, or do we have to wait to see if the objections stay or not?
I don't know.
So stay.
Yeah, I believe we all believe you see it.
Well, I mean, you can submit affidavits to this. Ms. Bleak brings a valid point, though.
Let's go.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. No, let me go ahead about Mr. Lincoln's discussion. Yep. He said she did. I'm releasing the show, but it's up to the school.
All right, folks, let's get started back. Sir, what this board would ask is that you go ahead and finish with this witness first before you move on to other matters.
I understand. I'd like to show you a series of pictures. I would like you to tell me whether or not they're your residents here in Barnesville. I'm going to ask that you identify these pictures. And I will refrain from introducing them. They are a series of pictures that should be in the evidence handout section. Yes. I'm going to mark these collectively as exhibit number 10, is that right? So if you could just peruse these pages and let me know if they are true and accurate depictions of your mother's property in the home that you reside in now. That's the only question I'm asking about that.
They appear to be, yes, sir.
I'd like to ask you, when I asked you whether you recall whether or not you stayed your wife's residence during the month of November, you said you couldn't recall which night you did.
Right.
So the same testimony you would have to give that you couldn't recall whether you stayed in Madison County during the month of November, correct?
That'd be correct. Yes, sir.
Objection, I believe that's his testimony.
It is now. So, Ledford, if you can't recall whether or not you stayed in Buncombe County in November, the same can be true that you cannot recall whether you stayed in Madison County. Is that correct?
Let me try to correct what you're asking me. You're asking me about specific dates in November. And I'm telling you that on a specific date, I don't know where I was or was not in November. That's the best way I know how to answer it.
personal belongings right now?
When you say personal belongings,
Your personal belongings since you separated in October, where are all your personal belongings?
my clothes that would be appropriate for this weather, my tools of the trade, those type of articles are in my apartment. There are some of my personal belongings still at 697 Dillingham Road.
And sir, to correct and clarify the record, the witness has repeatedly stated September 28th, not October. Thank you.
I'm just referring to October 4.
Understand that.
Is it your intent to move to another home in the near future, or are you going to stay in the apartment at this time?
It's always been my intent to come back to the apartment, 2611 Old Morris Hill Highway.
At some point, are you going to look at getting another home as you have in the past, or are you wanting to stay at this apartment for now?
Objection. Doesn't have any balance.
Sustained, sir. I don't know that he can clarify what he plans to do in the future.
I think I can ask him about his intent under the case law, Mr. Chairman. Under 1994 North Carolina, Lexus 308, I believe in the holding of the court, I can ask him the intent of him making his residence a permanent home.
Sir, I've sustained the objection. The only time period I'm concerned about is November 2013 through November 2014. What the gentleman may do in the future, I think, is fairly irrelevant.
From now until November of 2014, do you intend on making the residence in Madison County your permanent residence?
It is my permanent residence.
Do you still go back to Bunker County at this time?
If I need anything, absolutely. I've got a key. I can go and come as I please.
Do you go back there and stay the night at all?
I don't remember the last time I stayed the night in Buckley County.
Does anyone live in the apartment with you, or do you reside there by yourself?
I reside by myself.
How long have you known Mr. Jerry Long?
Mr. Gary Long, 15, 20 years, I guess.
How would you describe the relationship?
Mr. Chairman, please object. We didn't do that.
No, sir. We went through that in Mr. Wallen's testimony. I'm asking Mr. Ledford his opinion of that testimony.
I wouldn't allow that question, sir.
I'm
How
sorry.
would you describe the relationship between you and Mr. Wallen?
We're friends.
How often do you see him?
Objection.
How often do you see him?
Objection.
Folks, the way we're operating today is think the term used is relaxed rules of evidentiary hearing. I'm going to allow those questions.
Often do you see,
Weekly, more than likely.
what type of context?
Just here in Madison County, we'll either get a cup of coffee or we'll pass each other coming out of the Board of Elections when he's there and my brother's there. My brother works at the Register of Deeds or rather not the Register of Deeds, tax office, or I'm going into Board of Elections. I mean, we're friends.
Has he ever, have you ever been present when he's introduced you to anyone and said that you're running for sheriff of Madison County?
Jerry Wallen is very careful what he says around me when he's in my presence about running for sheriff of Madison County. No, so the answer to that is no. He's never asked anybody to vote for me running for sheriff of Madison County.
Not that he's asking anyone to vote for you. Let me rephrase, let me reiterate the question. I didn't ask whether you asked anyone to vote for you. Has he ever introduced you as someone who is running for sheriff of Madison County?
Not that I recall.
Other than the Democrat convention meeting that you went to, which Mr. Wallen testified to earlier, I believe you were in the courtroom, has Mr. Wallen been present at any other political event where you have seen him?
No, in fact, I didn't remember Jerry from the county convention.
You recall when, right that, did you have any contact with Mr. Wallen when his job was, when he resigned from the Madison County Sheriff's Office?
You're going to have to clarify that for me. Prior to him resigning, or have I had contact with him?
Have you had conversations with him about his resignation?
No, not really. The only conversation I know about Jerry is he decided to leave.
Did he talk to you about it before he left?
No, I don't recall that.
Do you know Mr. Andy Gibson outside of his position in this hearing in the Board of Elections?
Mr. Chair, we object to the same way.
Sir, I'm going to go ahead and allow that question. I do think we've already covered this territory, but we are going to allow other questions.
Thank you.
Do I know Mr. Andy Gibson? Yes, I know Andy Gibson.
How would you describe your relationship with him?
Mr. Gibson is very polite. We hey, how you doing? Exchange pleasantries. We don't socialize or never have socialized. Or as I said, as he said, I'm older than him, and I knew his sister in school, but I've not seen her. And I've been gone for 4 or 5 years, so that's the only way I know to describe that.
Now, a moment.
Yes, sir.
Do you own any other property in Madison County, sir?
I'm sorry?
Do you own any other property in Madison County? Do you own any property? Not other, sorry.
Me?
Yes.
No.
Do you own any property in any other county in the state of North Carolina?
Not other than rental property my wife and I own.
Correct. Down in Buckingham County.
That's correct.
That's the only property the two of you, only real property the two of you own. And you don't own any your individual.
No.
Did you file suit against the state of North Carolina in 2013?
I believe my mother filed suit against the state of North Carolina in 2013.
Did you ever file suit against the state of North Carolina involving your termination?
Oh, yes, yes,
Was
administrative
that
officer.
in 2012 or 2013?
2013.
You remember when you filed suit?
I don't know the date. It's been a year-long process. It started sometime after April, gone through January 1st.
You were terminated, or you resigned in April, is that correct?
April 10th, I believe, is correct.
So it would have been sometime in the summer, possibly?
Possibly, yes, sir. I mean, the suit has gone on through the summer, and through the fall, through the winter.
At the time you filed suit, Mr. Fish was living in your apartment, correct?
Sounds right, yes, sir.
And you used the address of the suit in Buckingham County or Haywood County for your address?
I have no idea. My lawyer filed the suit, I couldn't tell you.
This time, that would conclude my questions that I have for Mr. Blake.
Can I clarify? No, ma'am.
Mr. Rick, do you have a question, sir?
Yes, thank you. We're glad to begin with the last first. The legal action against the Department of Crime Control and Public Safety alleges that you are a resident of Madison County.
It does. I remember that, what he was asking.
In fact, you won the first round.
That's correct.
And Secretary of Crime Control, Secretary of Public Safety, as it's now called, chose to appeal that decision to the Administrative Law Judge. And because you are a resident of Madison County, it's currently pending in Madison County Superior Court, is it not?
That's correct, it is, sir.
Now, I want to go to November, which I believe is
Sir.
what you were asked about. Where were you residing in November?
Madison County.
Were you there most nights?
I was.
Is there any doubt about that in your mind?
There is not.
Were you in any way living in Barnesville, North Carolina in November of 2013?
No.
Where have you resided since September 28th?
Madison County.
Now, sir, at at the time that you made the decision to voluntarily leave the director's job and be reassigned, was it your intent to run for sheriff of Madison County?
It was.
The convention that you made reference to, at which you announced for sheriff, was in April of 2013, was it not?
It was.
I believe that you made reference earlier that pursuant to state policy, you had taken a leave of absence to run for sheriff once before from ALE.
That's correct.
Was it your anticipation of doing that again?
If necessary.
Sheriff, have you ever represented to anybody that you were a resident of Buncombe County?
No.
When you reapplied for your driver's license in 2010,
Right.
was it your understanding of the law that you given your domicile?
That's
Or you
correct.
call home?
That's correct.
I know that you've been through some training sessions with the state. Is it your understanding that a state employee, by going to Raleigh, does not give up his domicile back home?
That's correct.
Does not give up his right to vote back home?
That's correct.
In other words, Governor McCoy, despite having a big fine house in Raleigh, still has the right to vote in Mecklenburg County, doesn't he?
That's my understanding.
Did anyone ever suggest to you that by you accepting an appointment from the governor of North Carolina, that you were giving up your right to return to Madison County?
No.
Now, let's again go to, you have accepted a reassignment as an ALJ, been assigned to the Buncombe office. Where were you ultimately headed home to?
Madison County.
What kept you from heading home on January 5, 2014?
Mr. Fish was in the apartment.
Mr. Fish, a longtime friend of yours?
Long time.
You advised him to vacate as quick as he conveniently could?
I didn't advise him that, but I believe that's what he was advised, correct?
And is it at some point, did you decide that convenience might be too slow?
Wayne took a couple extra weeks.
Well, at some point, you say September 1, right? Give it a deadline.
I think that's correct, yes, sir, as I recall.
And he doesn't meet that deadline.
That's correct.
Now, when you moved out to go to the Capitol, you literally cleaned the apartment out, is that right? Or when he moves in, you cleaned the apartment out?
Yeah, did it actually, I believe. Not only did we move everything out, but we did some work in the apartment, as I remember.
To make it better for him.
Yes, sir.
Where did that moved out stuff go to?
Some of it went to Raleigh with me, some of it went into storage.
And when you moved back in, all that property that had been there before, did it in essence go back in?
That's correct. It was probably from basement and Raleigh and everywhere in between.
So in essence, that which was there got moved back in.
Portion of it, yes, sir.
And, well now, I want to get this straight. Again, I'm not saying everything went back exactly as it was.
That's correct.
But essentially, that which you moved out, you moved back in.
That's right.
and schedule individual ones.
I'm going to hand to you exhibits which have been marked as exhibits 33 to 62. And so as to not unduly belabor and lengthen this hearing, I'm not going to ask you to identify what is reflected in each one of those. I'm going to ask you if those photographs fairly and accurately illustrate your apartment as it existed in terms of furnishings at least, both prior to your move and at the time you returned.
I think everything's the same, except maybe the couch.
New couch or the old couch didn't make it back?
I think that may be the new couch, but
New couch.
I think that may be one we bought for Holly, but
Okay, take out the photograph that's got the couch.
No. I mean, that's the only difference. Understand?
that's the only difference I recall.
Now, my next question, Chair, is that the way the apartment, in terms of furnishings, essentially looks today?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, can please, we would move to introduce and to hand up, it looks like it's already there, photographs for the board's perusal as to what is in that apartment now. Now, Mr. Ledford, I'm going to take you to the semi-delicate question of your wife.
Okay, sir.
Is it fair to say, sir, that when you decide to leave the director's job, it was your hope and belief that your wife would be returning with you to Madison County?
Yes, sir.
And as it turned out, that's something she's not willing to do.
That's correct.
As I understand it, there are multiple factors, one of which is the health of the mom,
That's correct.
death of the dad.
That's right.
But the major factor is she does not like nor enjoy nor want to be Mrs. Sure.
That would be accurate.
And I take it, sir, that a decision was made by she and you
Yes.
that from your perspective that you wanted to return to Madison,
Yes, sir.
that you wanted to again become sheriff,
Yes, sir.
and she was not up to that task.
That'd be right.
And I'm not throwing spears at anybody. A decision was made by you that you wanted to be the sheriff of Madison County.
Right.
Whatever personal sacrifice that meant to you.
Correct.
And the decision was made by her that at least at this point in her life, she was unwilling to be your wife
That's correct.
if you were going to make that effort.
That's right.
Now, Mr. Ledford, in the packet which we have given to opposing counsel, Mr. Laws, and the board. This included a statement of economic interest marked as Exhibit 1. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Is that a document that's required to be completed by all state appointees
Yes, sir. Policymaking exempt.
in which you
Policymaking exempt employees.
in which you list such things as your residence, assets, family members, etc.
Yes.
And on this particular form, you list Morris Hill, North Carolina as your residence, as your address, do you not?
I do.
Objection, Your Honor, it does not say residence, it says preferred mailing address.
I stand corrected. It lists preferred mailing address.
Yes, sir, it does say that, but I would take that as what it is. That's his address.
And was it your understanding that you were also identifying where you live?
Yes, sir.
Did you in fact live in Madison County when you completed this form?
Yes, sir.
And I believe this form was completed on September 26, 2009.
Sounds correct.
That was still your domicile.
That's what I consider. Yes, sir.
Now, you're required annually to update this form, were you not?
Yes, sir, I am.
Under penalty of law.
Yes, sir.
And on in 2010, 2011, 2012, did you continue to show Madison County as your residence?
As far as I know, sir.
I'm going to check because those aren't included, and we have no way of knowing what they're saying.
How about the witness? He's entitled.
So we can take evidence from the witness.
Okay, take your hand down so.
I'm sorry.
Did you continue to indicate?
As far as I know, yes, sir.
Now, Mr. Ledford, you know, I don't, they don't.
I know of no change made to that form. You don't resubmit that form, do an update, and I know of nothing updated.
Okay, and one had been made, would you know it?
Yes, sir, I would.
Requires your signature, doesn't it?
It would.
Now, Mr. Ledford also included in the packet is a document marked as Exhibit 8, which I believe to be your current retirement information as it exists with the state of North Carolina. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And is that the information which it has had since you became director to the present?
Yes, sir.
And what does it show current address?
P.O. Box 358, Morris, North Carolina.
So it's remained the same.
Yes, sir.
Of course, you were a member of the retirement system due to your previous state service before you went to the director's job.
That's right.
That was your address before you went?
I don't know.
Okay, did it remain your address while you were there at least? Or
Yes. Yes.
And still your address?
And still my address.
Now, do you also have something known as a 401k plan?
I do.
Is that some sort of retirement plan available through the state?
Yes.
And attached exhibits, as Exhibit 9, or quarterly statements going from October 1, 2010, up through September 30, 2013. Does this list your address as 2611?
2611 on Marsville Highway.
And that was the address that you gave to them, that you got your statement sent to, the whole time you were involved?
That's correct.
Mr. Lee,
Yes, sir.
being the nitpicker that I am, 2 of these statements use a post office box instead of the 2611.
Do you have any explanation of that?
No, not unless they were updated or I did a change from beneficiary or something like that.
The April the 1st, 2010 statement uses a P.O. Box 358. The January 1st, 2010 uses Post Office Box 358. January the 1st, 2011 reversed to 2611.
You have any explanation for that?
If I changed the beneficiary or something to that effect, that would do that. My secretary was updated, that's correct.
Been in Madison County the whole time?
That's correct, one or the other.
When you had some fellow, state bureaucrat in Raleigh, and you say to him, "Where you from?" And he says to you, "Where you from?" How did you answer that question while you were there?
Madison County.
Now, there also attached to the packet or a series of what appears to be state credit union account, beginning as Exhibit 16 and going to Exhibit 32. What address, is that your account?
Yes, sir.
What address is given?
2611 Old Marsville Highway.
And has that remained, subject to Mr. Smatters's eagle eyes, has that remained your address with the state employees credit union?
I don't believe there'll be a change, yes, sir. It still comes to that address.
Mr. Ledford, Mr. Ledford, just to clarify, those are dated September 25th, 2012 through January 27th, 2014.
I believe that's correct. That's as far as I can go back online and download it.
That's what I have in my hands. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Ledford, let's talk about the obituary. Not desirous to get you emotional again. I know how close you were to him, and ought to. Did you have anything to do with the preparation of his obituary?
I do not.
Did you have anything to do with the preparation of your father-in-law's obituary?
I did not.
On either occasion, sir, at that point in your life, were you concerned, perhaps even aware of what the Asheville Citizen or our fine local newspaper were saying about where you were laying your head down?
No, sir.
do have one clarification. Mr. Laws, in regards to the other exhibits that we have here in front of us, which were not discussed, Mr. Liddy, we have stipulated those are entered in the record, correct?
I can get here, no, I'll be dealing with
Yeah,
it.
he's still asking.
Just want to clarify. Thank you, sir. And Mr. Laws, I believe this time we may have opportunity to cross examine.
You finished, Mr. Wood? Thank you, but I can see it.
Sir, do you want to cross examine?
I'd like to ask you about exhibit number 1, the 2009 Statement of Economic Interest, where you listed PO Box 358. October of 2009, you went to Raleigh and your wife went to Barnesville, correct?
Yes, sir.
So when you would come home on the weekends, you came home to Barnesville, correct?
In 2009?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
You came home in 2010 to Barnesville.
Yes, sir.
You came home to Barnesville in 2011.
Yes, sir.
Came home to Barnesville in 2012.
Came to Barnes in 2012, right?
That was where your wife was living, correct?
She was residing in Barnes, correct?
That time, the apartment was vacant, correct?
Which time?
2009, 10, 11, and 12.
2009, 2010, maybe 2011. I think in 2012 it would have been occupied by Mr. Fish.
9, so 2009, 10, 11.
That's the way I recall, yes, sir. 9, 10, 11.
So all this 358 was at that point in time was a mailing address. You were actually, your wife and you were still married, and she was living in Barnesville, correct?
She had a residence in Barnesville. I consider Madison County my domicile.
Did you have a home in Barnesville at the time?
She had a residence in Barnesville at the time, yes, sir.
Did you have a home in Barnesville at the time?
Are you asking if I owned a home in Barnesville at the time?
From the time you became director in 09, 10, 11, and 12, up until Mr. Fish moved in, did you live in Barnesville with your wife?
I stayed with my wife in Barnesville, that's correct.
Did you have a home in Madison County at that time?
I did not.
Were your personal belongings in your wife's home in Barnesville at that time?
Some were in my mother's basement in Madison.
Were they packed away in your mother's basement?
They would have been packed. Our furniture would have been set, yes, sir.
Did you at any time live in that apartment in 2009?
Up until October, I did.
Of 2009 when you left?
Correct.
Did you live in that apartment in 2010?
No,
Did you live in that apartment in 2011?
no,
Did you live in that apartment in 2012?
no.
Did you live in that apartment? Did you live in Barnesville when you came home in 2009?
Yes, sir.
Did you live in your house in 2010 when you came home?
In her house, yes,
Did you live with her in 2011?
I did.
And you lived with her in 2012?
That's correct.
Regardless of whether you call Madison County your domicile or not, the fact of the matter was you were living in Barnesville when you came home on the weekend.
There was a residence in Barnesville, that's correct.
And it's still her residence today, correct?
It is where she resides, that's correct. It's her mother's residence.
The only thing you were doing during that time period when you would come home was receive mail in Madison County, correct?
I received mail, my vehicle stayed in Madison County, those type of things.
Your vehicle stayed in Madison County or your vehicle stayed in Barnesville,
My vehicle stayed in Madison County,
and it stayed
registered in Madison County.
registered.
And it was in Madison County. It never left Madison County. Unless I
Were you
broke
given a
it.
state vehicle?
I was.
And did you use that to travel back and
I
forth?
did.
Do you still have personal belongings in the Barnesville home?
I do.
How much personal belongings would you say?
Clothing, some guns, some of my guns and tools and trailer in Madison.
Do you have a intent or desire to reconcile your marriage?
I'm not sure that's appropriate for this hearing. I don't see anything germane about that.
Well, if she's living in Madison County, or if she's living in Buncombe County, and he opened the door by asking about the separation, it seems to me like I get to ask whether or not he intends to reconcile if she's residing in Buncombe County.
John, Mr. Chairman, that's not what the question.
Yeah, sir, I would agree with that. One, I don't know if this board's necessarily concerned with that. That's not a fact that I think is germane to this hearing.
Do you have any utilities switched over to your name since you moved into the apartment?
No.
Do you still receive mail to the Barnesville address? Any mail?
I have not asked. I've not been made aware of any. My checking account, all my pertinent information comes to Madison, I believe.
You said when you left in 2009, the council asked you if Corey could still go back to Charlotte to vote, is that correct?
I didn't say that.
I believe Mr. Leeds said even though he resides in Raleigh, the governor can still go home to Charlotte to vote, is that correct?
I believe that's correct, yes, sir.
He also asked you if you still maintain the right to come back to vote, is that correct?
He asked me if I was still, I don't remember how he worded it, but yes, sir.
Why did you vote in 2010 in Madison County?
I didn't vote in 2010 because I guess of my father's death. I just had not recovered from that.
Why didn't you vote in 2012?
That was a letdown of my civic duties on my part, but I take responsibility for that. My
You know
father
where
did
Mr.
this
Fish
point.
is now?
What's that?
You know where Mr. Fish is now?
I'm looking at it.
All right. I believe that's all the questions I've asked.
Okay,
I have just one, too.
that's fine, sir, go ahead.
You ever paid power bill when you've been living in that apartment?
No, sir, I have not.
Let's put all the cards on the table. You ever paid rent?
I have not.
That'd be all.
I do have two follow-up questions, sir. Mr. Ledford, have you always voted in Madison County?
Have I always voted in Madison County? Yes, sir.
Has anyone ever protested your right to vote in this county?
No, sir.
I believe you ran and successfully won the sheriff's office 3 times.
I did, sir.
Did anyone ever protest your right to run as sheriff for Madison County?
They did not.
Thank you, sir.
I don't know.
There are no further questions. The witness is excused.
Thank you.
Sir, you may call the next witness, please. Or evidence. You can proceed, sir.
I believe it's Mr.
Yes, sir. Excuse me, sir.
Sorry.
Mr. Lee, that's okay.
We will, in order to, since his name's been mentioned, we'll call Mr. Fish. Mr. Fish, you come up this morning.
Swear or affirm that the evidence you shall give to this panel in this challenge now in hearing wherein Stephen Herman, Pete Orthman, and Timothy Malone are the challengers, and C. John Ledford is the challenged candidate, shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, ma'am.
State your name, please.
My name is James Wayne Fish, and I go by Wayne.
And what do you do for a living, Mr. Fish?
I work for the North Carolina Department of Public Safety, Division of Adult Correction and Juvenile Justice at Craigie Correctional Center as a food service manager too.
How long have you been so employed?
It will be 16 years in May.
Now, do you know the gentleman seated to my right, John Ledford?
My father and his late father were acquaintances since the 1970s, and we would see each other at the appropriate business locations that his father had in the past.
At some point in 2012, were you in need of lodging?
Yes, sir.
And did you approach one of the Ledfords about whether there was a possibility of renting an apartment from them?
I ran into Mike Ledford in Asheville at a restaurant or a store. I cannot recall what the location was, but I did make an inquiry to Mike Ledford.
And did you make arrangements to, in fact, rent an apartment?
Yes, I did, and we both had the understanding, because the reason I was wanting to acquire a different place to live was because I was actively pursuing purchasing a house or something and did not want to be tied up in a lease that would hold me up for several months and I never did find anything, but that was my reasoning to go to an apartment that did not have a lease. That was the benefit to me, was not to have a lease.
And did you understand that there was some possibility, at some point in time, John Ledford would be returned?
It was conveyed to me that it was a month-to-month lease and that I would have to leave at some point, like anyone would be expected to on a month-to-month lease, and I understood that it could possibly be in the future at that time. So nothing was hidden. I was aware that it was a temporary arrangement.
When did you move in? Let me ask you
Okay.
to approach with the document that everybody now has got to see if it's the same document.
Okay.
I'm going to hand you what I have marked as Exhibit 65 and ask you if that refreshes your memory as to when you moved in.
Yes, it is.
Okay, when did you move in?
I moved in, the official move-in was April 1st. I rented a U-Haul, and through the magic of online banking, you can go back and look at those statements to refresh your memory, and that's what I did. So I had rented a U-Haul on March the 29th or thereabouts to move in for an April 1st period for the rental period starting April 1st.
And does Exhibit 65 contain that charge?
Yes, it does, sir.
And you, at my request, went looking and found the move-in time?
Yes.
Now, turning your attention Well, first of all, did you get the word in 2013 that John Ledford was in need of employment?
Could you repeat it? I couldn't hear
Did
you.
you get the word in 2013 that John Ledford was in need of the employment?
Yes, I was informed.
Do you recall when?
Early in that year, and they explained that he needed to be in by 1 year prior to the general election of this coming year, and I was out a month or so before the month of November, and they were citing some election law stuff.
So they told you that they again be Mike Ledford,
Yes, Mike Ledford.
that need you to get gone, find a place, but you had to be gone by fall.
Yes, sir.
And I'm going to hand to you what again appears to be another credit card bill marked as Exhibit 64. And I'll ask you if you can identify what that is.
That's another charge for a U-Haul rental to move my stuff to where I reside now.
And it's reflected on that.
Yes, it was reflected. The day I rented it was a different date than the posting date because I did it on a Friday and it didn't post till like that Monday, but that's something with the hiking industry. And I know I rented it on a Friday and I turned it in on a Saturday afternoon and they posted it sometime later by a day or two.
Now, Sarah, do you have a concealed weapon permit? Or did you have a concealed weapon permit in 2013?
I still have a concealed weapons permit. The reason it was not changed was I made 2 trips to the sheriff's office here. The first trip to the office, the person that handled that was not in the office. So I had to make another trip to the office, and I was a tad late within the 30 days, but I did not carry it concealed until I had the proper paperwork.
So you were a tad over the 30 days?
Yes,
So
sir.
not much, and you
And-
made the effort.
And I wouldn't have been over if they had been there the first time, and they weren't, and I don't know the reason. I just came back at a later time period.
And do you know whether John Ledford moved into the apartment shortly after you left it?
I did not go back that direction for some time down that road, so I have no knowledge.
You know, you left it, you were told he was coming, but you don't know from personal knowledge whether he did it.
Right, and I can say that I turned the keys in on that Sunday, the September 22nd. I also changed my driver's license to reflect a Maggie Valley address on the 23rd of September, and part of the concealed carry process is you have to present a new driver's license. And as we're all aware, they now don't issue driver's licenses in the office, they're sent to you by mail. So there was some lead time, and that also affected my concealed carry permit not being done in the 30-day time frame.
And I believe that your driver's license is included in the packet as Exhibit 66. I would just, with council's permission, point that out to the board's attention.
Yes, sir.
Those would be my questions of this witness.
Opportunity to cross, sir.
Sir, regarding your concealed carry permit, prior to you making the change to the Avon County address, what address did you have listed on your concealed carry permit?
The address that's in question, and I don't recall because I didn't receive mail there. I had a P.O. box that I've had all my life. It was my parents. So any pertinent information was always sent to the P.O. box, and I do not recall my street address there. And I don't have a copy of that driver's license, but once I got my new one, I placed it in a shredder of the old driver's license once my new one was issued and I had it in hand.
How long have you had your old driver's license prior to shredding it? Prior to getting your new driver's license, how long have you had your old driver's license?
I had it changed when I moved into that apartment back in 2012. I changed it at the same time when I moved that time too. And it's just a duplicate each time. I did not have to take the test. They just changed the addresses on them.
Did John ever stay at the home during the time that you rented it?
I couldn't hear you, sir.
Did John ever stay at the home during the time that you rented it?
I was the only applicant because I was the person that had it rented at the time.
Did you receive any personal mail to that residential address, in either of those mailboxes, or only to the mailbox you had your entire adult life?
I believe I received one bill from Charter TV, and when I went to pay it, I had them to change it to the P.O. box that I had. They sent it to the address of where the service was, but then I had them to change it to my P.O. box because it's a lot more secure location with identity theft and so forth these days. So one bill had come there, then the rest of it, I doubt I got anything that I'm aware of or that I can recall. I mean, that's what I can recall.
You knew John for most of his adult life, is that correct?
On and off.
Did you know when he was the AOE director?
Yes. Because it made the paper
Did you ever talk to him?
occasionally. Because he would come by there to pick up the car that was right beside my bedroom, and you couldn't help to hear a Mustang start in the morning or early or late at night, depending on what time of day it was. And I'd say, hey, or how are you, and that's about the extent of the conversation.
Do you know where he was living at that time?
It was none of my business, so I didn't ask.
Did you ever go to his home in Buchan County, in Wardersville?
I had no clue. I mean, again, I thought he lived in Raleigh, but that's where he worked. I don't know.
No further questions?
I have no further.
Thank you, sir.
Next witness will be Alan Page.
Sir, your excuse, thank you.
Do you swear or affirm that the evidence you shall give to this panel in this challenge now and hearing, wherein Cindy Harmon, Peter Orthman, and Timothy Malone are the challengers, and C. John Ledford is the challenge candidate, shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do. Good afternoon, board members.
See ya.
Mr. Lee.
Will you state your name, please?
Richard Allen Page,
Where do you live in Fayette?
Asheville, Candler, Buncombe County.
What's your current employment situation?
I'm retired,
What are you retired from, sir?
state law enforcement.
Would that be the alcohol law enforcement agency?
Yes, sir, 30-year service.
And during the tenure of John Ledford as director of that agency, did you hold a position with the agency?
Yes, sir, that's why I'm gray-headed now.
And what might that position have been?
I was the deputy director for operations.
And were you there during the whole Ledford stint as director?
Yes, sir.
Now, when John Ledford sought and obtained reassignment, did you remain for a period of time in Raleigh?
I did. I remained until February 1st.
Were you involved, then you came back to Asheville, I gather,
Yes, sir, on February 1st.
and for a period of time where you had reassignment as a district supervisor?
I was the special agent in charge, District 9 in Asheville,
That's February 1st of what year?
2013.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
And when did you leave that position?
December 1st of 2013, I retired.
Now, despite the fact you had the misfortune of working under John Ledford and being his roommate in Raleigh, is that correct?
Yes, sir. John and myself resided together, we shared an apartment.
Have you remained a friend of his?
Closer than a friend, we're brothers.
Did you, on or about September 28th, assist him with a move?
Yes, sir, I did.
Where did you move him to?
To the apartment that's been in question, the 2611 or whatever, the old Mars Hill Highway address.
And would it be fair to say that when that move was completed, the apartment was fully livable?
Absolutely, yes, sir.
Since September 28th, 2013, you had the occasion to visit with him there.
Numerous times, yes, sir.
Would that include October and November 2013?
I'm sure, I don't know specific dates, but I've been to the apartment, visited with John, and watched TV.
Where do you believe John Ledford has resided since September 28, 2013 to the present?
100%, no doubt, John Ledford has resided in Madison County at the apartment.
Now, you may have heard the earlier question which I asked, as how John Ledford, when he met up with one of his fellow bureaucrats in Raleigh, stuck up their hand and said, I'm so-and-so or so-and-so, and I'm originally from X County, where are you from? You heard that kind of exchange, haven't you?
Numerous times.
And how did John Ledford respond to that?
Madison County.
To your knowledge, sir, has he ever held himself out as being from any county other than Madison?
No county other than Madison County, and he intended to return to Madison County to run for sheriff.
That would be my question. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen.
Witnesses accused.
Thank you.
We would call Mrs. Ledford.
Do you swear or affirm that the evidence you shall give to this panel in this challenge now in hearing, wherein Cindy Harmon, Peter Orthman, and Timothy Malone are the challengers, and C. John Ledford is the challenged candidate, shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Good afternoon, Ms. Ledford.
Good afternoon.
Now, I want to give my colleague a little credit when I left. I believe you were here under a subpoena issued by the other side. Is that right?
Yes.
And he came to me, 1:45 or so, and a little after, and said he understood that you were feeling puny and that maybe you needed to go home and he would release you. And I said, you all, I'm going to keep it. Now, you doing okay?
I'm doing okay.
Okay. Now, if at any point in time you need a break, you just let us know, okay?
Okay.
Now, for the record, ma'am, tell us your full name.
Nina Baldwin Ledford.
You're a lifetime resident of Madison County,
Yes, sir.
grew up in the Spring Creek community,
That's true.
married a retired Navy man by the name of James T. Ledford,
Yes, sir.
and set up residence in the Forks Valley community.
That's right.
School teacher,
Yes, sir.
taught at Mars Hill,
Yes.
retired after 30 years,
40 years.
40 years. And I have 3 children, I believe.
Yes, sir.
A daughter, Laura,
Yes, sir.
and 2 identical twin boys who adopted at the age of 2,
That's right.
Mike and John.
Yes, sir.
Now, you, of course, know you got 2 apartments that are near your home.
Yes, sir.
I gather those apartments have been near your home for quite a while,
Ever since the house has been there.
ever since the house was built. When was the house built, approximately?
1964.
Okay. So those apartments have been rented off and on since 1964.
Yes, sir.
Now, for periods of time after John Ledford got married, did he live in those apartments, one of those apartments?
He lived in one of them for several years, and he lived in the other one.
Okay. And at the time that he was main director of alcohol law enforcement, was he living in one of those apartments with his wife at the time he was named director?
I'm not sure about that. I believe he was in one of the apartments.
You think he was in one of them?
I believe so.
Okay. Now, but he goes off to Raleigh, does he not?
Yes, sir.
And during the period of time he's in Raleigh, he was not living in one of those apartments.
No.
Did he return to one of those apartments after coming back from Raleigh?
Yes, sir.
When did he move back into Raleigh?
In the latter part of September?
2013?
Yes.
Now, when we say he moved in, did he move in furniture, beds, and stuff to live in?
Yes, sir.
And I take it that a mother never totally quits keeping up with the goings and comings of the child, does she?
No, they don't.
Where was he living in September, October, October and November 2013?
He's been in that apartment.
And did you regularly see him about the apartment, about your house?
Yes, I sure do. See him every day.
Have you ever known your son, John, to claim any place as home other than Madison County? Those would be my questions.
Do you have any questions for the witness, sir?
Ms. Ledford, throughout your son's adult life, has he received mail to your home?
He received mail down in one of the mailboxes, yes.
Did he receive mail there when he lived in Asheville?
No, not when he was in Asheville. Maybe some of the mail might come to our house, but most of it went to that address.
Would you get that mail and give it to him when you saw him?
Yes, sir.
When he was in Raleigh, did he get mail to the house?
Some came, yes,
Did you give it to him when you saw him?
yes.
I have no further questions.
Ms. Ledford, I do need to ask you just a couple more. John ever paid the light bill when he's been living in those apartments?
No, sir, I'll pay them.
For that matter, just to get all the cards on the table, he ever paid you any rent?
No,
Thank you, ma'am.
You may assist, sir. Thank you.
We call Miss Norval to the stand.
Up or down, either way. Do you swear or affirm that the evidence you shall give to this panel in this challenge now in hearing, wherein Cindy Herman, Peter Orthman, and Timothy Malone are the challengers and C. John Ledford is the challenged candidate, shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Mr. Chairman, with your permission, Ms. Norval leaned down and whispered in my ear that she did not hear well.
Okay.
And therefore, with your permission, I'm going to approach her to try to facilitate the hearing issue.
I think that would be fine, sir.
Ma'am, would you state your name for the record?
Elizabeth Norval.
Where do you live, ma'am?
I live at 2301 Old Mars Hill Highway, but I live just around the curve from 911.
So you're well familiar with the family and the young man at the table?
Absolutely.
Now, do you interact with Miss Ledford almost on a daily basis?
We walk together. We walk as many days per week as we can. If it's pretty, we go to the Ponder Field at Mars Hill, and if it's bad days in winter, we go to the community center at Beach Glen and walk in the gym. Yes, we go as many days a week as we can.
So you are regular walkers.
We do.
Would it be fair to say you're regular talkers too?
Well, yes, we do talk.
You talk about family and stuff.
Yes, we do.
Now, did you become aware in the fall, on about October 1, somewhere in that time period, that John Ledford had resumed occupancy in one of the Ledford apartments?
Yes, I did, and I heard before that time that he was definitely coming and understood that he did come a little before October.
And in your walks and ramblings and talks around the Ledford property, did you observe him around and about the property?
Well, every time we would go to walk and I would pick her up, his car would be there in the mornings and we walked early. And then if she came to pick me up, then we would talk about what John was doing.
And did she indicate to you that John was there, you saw nothing to suggest John Ledford wasn't living there, did you?
Oh, no, there wasn't anything to suggest that.
Are you satisfied that after October 1, 2013 to the present, John Ledford has lived in that apartment?
I saw his car practically every time I passed there early, and during the day it was there, and practically every day that I passed there, I saw John Ledford's car.
Those would be my questions of this week.
And he was not gone any time during that time for a period of time, because he'd always be right back.
By period of time, you're not saying he was there every night, but there was no several days he went.
Oh, there was no several days, and he was there, as I say, every morning that I picked 9 up. His car was there until he started working some nights, and that was later.
Thank you, ma'am.
Ma'am, did you ever see his patrol car there?
No.
Do you know whether or not he drove his personal car to the police station, or whether he ever brought his patrol car home?
Never saw the patrol car, didn't even know he drove the patrol car. They just said he came to marshal to work in the police station, but I didn't know what he did. And when I would pass and his car was there, there would not be any other car like a patrol car. I never saw that.
So the only time you'd ever see his car there would be in the morning, is that correct?
Oh, no. I would pass through the day and his car would be there. His car would be there in the morning. But I was there by the house more in the morning because Nana and I walked.
Around what time is that?
I beg your pardon?
Around what time is that?
If we walked outside, we would be to the field by 7:15 to 7:30. But if we walk at the gym at Beach Glen, we leave home about 5 till 8.
Do you know what work hours John had during this time period at the police department here?
Ms. Ledford said that he worked sometime in the nights and would not be there early a few mornings that I passed, but I don't know what hours.
Do you know if he ever worked nights and was still working when his car would be there in the morning?
I don't know that.
I have no question.
Next word, thank you, ma'am. We call Ricky Ingram.
Do you swear or affirm that the evidence you shall give in this panel in this challenge now in hearing, wherein Cindy Harmon, Peter Worthman, and Timothy Malone are the challengers, and C. John Ledford is the challenge candidate, shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do. Easy.
State your name, please, sir.
My name is Ricky Joe Ingram.
Where do you live, Mr. Ingram?
I live at 96 Tar Hill Drive in Mars Hill, North Carolina.
Sounds like a good location.
I had to get that in there.
Now, Mr. Ingram, how old are you?
I'm 54.
Do you know John Ledford?
I've known him most of his life.
And I believe that I have compelled you to come here today by way of subpoena.
Yes, you did.
Now, it's my understanding, sir, that you have visited in the Ledford apartment, is that correct?
I have.
When did John Ledford return to that apartment?
Well, I equate everything to football. And it's football season. And I'm all time after all my buddies to go to the football games. So I know it was during the Polk County game and before the Hendersonville game, which was, the Hendersonville game was the 4th of October. And because I'd call him every Friday, call his brother, I'd call them all to see if they wanted to go to the ball games with him. So I know it was before the Hendersonville game because I went down there on the 4th and tried to get him to go with me, and he was there.
Now, when you went down there to try to get him to come to the Polk game, was the apartment furnished?
It was furnished. I sat down with him. Matter of fact, I freeloaded and drank some water out of his refrigerator.
Now, did you return on other occasions?
I certainly did. The Dean Griffin and I, he was out. He works with the state, and he was on medical leave, and we're classmates from 35 years ago, and we had a summer together because we'd spend a lot of time together, and he'd be with me a lot of times. He'd accompany me to the football games, and he'd be with me, and we'd go down. I've been by John's house several nights, like after Board of Education meetings and after commissioner meetings. I usually don't travel at night, especially by myself, because I'm disabled and I don't feel good a lot. But if I'm out, I'd run by there just to see if he was there, and I always caught him at home.
You have any opinions to whether he was living there in November?
He was in November.
Did you visit him in November?
I most certainly did. December too.
Those would be my questions.
Matter of fact, Mr. Lee, my son came in on the 18th. I know this. He flew in from Denver on the 18th, and we went to get pizza. And Dean Griffin was at our house, and I said, let's just go by John's a minute and tell him little Ricky's home. And we went by and stopped, and he was there that night, and that was right before Christmas.
I believe little Ricky's just been accepted to the University of North Carolina School of Law.
Absolutely.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That'd be my question.
How many times in November did you go by Mr. Ledford's house?
Well, I don't have an exact number, sir. I really don't, but several.
Is several more than 5 and less than 10, more than 10, less than 20?
At least 5.
In December, how many nights did you go by his residence?
I would say 3 to 4, maybe 5 then too, because he and his brother are more than just friends to me. They're kind of like Alan Page said. They're kind of like, I was always kind of big brother to them. And my nephew was their age, and they were all buddies, and I was just a big brother to them. So we've maintained a close friendship.
Any further questions?
Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Pardon me?
Your excuse, sir.
Thank you.
You call Jack Rabbit.
Place your left hand on the place right there. You swear or affirm that the evidence you shall give to this panel in this challenge now in hearing, wherein Cindy Harmon, Peter Orthman, and Timothy Malone are the challengers, and C. John Ledford is the challenged candidate, shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
So help me God.
State your name, please, sir.
Kenneth Jackson Radford.
And Mr. Radford, where do you live?
I live at 495 Pink Fork Road, Mars Hill.
Are you currently employed?
I am currently retired.
And from what did you retire?
I retired from the Madison County School System. Didn't quite do 40, but I did 34.
And I believe during that 34, you've been coach, teacher, is that correct?
Yes, it is. And bus driver.
And bus driver. And I believe for at least a short period of time, even after retiring, you continued as a bus driver, although maybe in a smaller bus, for the Madison County Transportation Authority.
I did.
Now, do you know John Ledford?
Yes, I do.
Do you know where John Ledford lives today?
Yes, I do.
How do you come to know where he lives today?
Well, most mornings during the week, I go eat breakfast at the Wagon Wheel, leave there and go drink coffee at the garage or the store, which is right across the road from where John lives. And his car is there most mornings, at least. I couldn't swear to what dates, but certainly.
And some of the time that you're asked what you refer to as the store, I think some of us would just call that Ledford's, wouldn't we?
We would.
Some of the time when you were at Ledford's, have you observed him arrive at the store from his house?
I have, and sometimes he might be there when I got there, if I was held late at other stop.
Do you have an opinion satisfactory to yourself as to where he was living in October, November 2013?
I do,
Where do you believe he's living, sir?
at the address of Old Highway, whatever it is.
And that's based on, you saw him around a lot, you saw his vehicle there.
I did, yes.
Those are my questions.
Sir, what does Mr. Ledford's vehicle look like?
It's a white, four-door, I don't know what kind. He's got a Mustang that's parked in the garage. Mustang's always in the garage. You can see it a little bit.
Is the door open or closed to the garage?
I'm sorry, what?
Is the door open or closed to the garage?
Mike's boat won't hardly fit in there, and you gotta leave the door open a little bit. So you can look in there and see his car, and I've seen it. I don't look every morning, but I've seen it in there, the Mustang.
You've seen it in there more or less than 5 times during the month of November.
I was down there more than 5 times in the month of November, and his car was there every time I noticed it, so I don't know that I went down the road looking for his car in there.
You know if it was there more or less than 5 times in December?
The same answer, it was there, I never noticed it not being in there.
Did you ever see a patrol car there?
Never saw a patrol car there.
Further questions?
Sir, we follow it.
I don't believe so, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Radford.
We call Dean Griffin.
Do you swear or affirm that the evidence you shall give to this panel in this challenge now in hearing, wherein Cnty Harmon, Peter Orthman, and Timothy Malone are the challengers, and C. John Ledford is the challenge candidate, shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, help you God?
State your name, please, sir.
Richard Dean Griffin,
Where do you live, Mr. Griffin?
227 Stone Cottage.
And is that in the Morris Hill area?
Yes, it is.
What do you do, sir?
I build bridges for the North Carolina Department of Transportation for Madison Bridge.
And do you know John Ledford?
Yes, I do. And proud of him too.
And do you know Ricky Ingram?
Yes, I do.
You have heard Ricky Ingram's testimony here today.
Yeah.
He says that you and he were doing some closing together back in the fall. Is that a true statement?
That's correct.
Did you have occasion to loafer to John Ledford's apartment?
Yes,
Did you do that on more than one occasion?
yes.
What did you observe about the furnishings in the apartment?
The furnished apartment is livable.
Was it apparent to you that he was living in it?
Yes,
Refrigerator full, food around and about?
I didn't go to eat supper, but he
Is that because you previously had to cook it?
yeah,
No doubt in your mind he's living there.
yes.
Now, do you have an opinion satisfactory to yourself that John Ledford was living in that apartment?
That is correct.
No doubt.
No doubt in my mind.
Do you have an opinion satisfactory to yourself that John Ledford was living in that apartment? No doubt.
That's true.
No doubt.
No doubt.
That'd be my question.
Dr. Kenny Cross, sir.
So how many times did you go see him in November?
I'd say that 2 or 3 times.
How many times did you go see him in December?
Went by there, maybe a time or 2.
No further questions?
Yeah.
Witnesses excused. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
We call Lamont Miller.
Repeat that last name, sir.
Miller, Y-I-D-E-L.
Do you swear or affirm that the evidence you shall give to this panel in this challenge now in hearing, wherein Cindy Harmon, Peter Orthman, and Timothy Malone are the challengers, and C. John Ledford is the challenged candidate, shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? I do.
State your name, please, sir.
Lamont Riddle,
Where do you live, Mr. Riddle?
197 Beach Glen Road.
What do you do professionally?
I've got my own business, tree service.
Do you know John Ledford?
Know him, yeah.
You know where he lives?
I can see his house from my house with leaves on it.
Where does he live?
There's Forks of Ivy, or Old Mars Hill Highway, where he's beside his mom.
And is he living there in October?
Yes, sir, he was.
Was he living there in November of 2000?
Yes, sir.
How do you know that?
Well, I knew when he moved in. I don't know the exact date except when he moved in, but, and one cold morning I came by there and he was out working on his car. In fact, I took him down to the store and got a battery and we put it in.
Would it be more accurate to say you put it in?
Yeah.
So, no question in your mind. Every October you had a new neighbor.
None whatsoever.
Any doubt in your mind he was living there in November?
None whatsoever.
Do you think if John Ledford had disappeared for a week or 2, you would have noticed it?
Oh, yeah. I'm down by his house every morning by 8 o'clock. I keep some of my equipment parked down below the store. Most of the time, I'm down by there every morning. His car's there. He drives a gray Honda Accord 4-door.
Any questions?
You said his car is a gray Honda 4-door?
Yes, sir.
Did you ever see the white
It sits in the garage beside his brother's boat.
Ford that he drives on a regular basis?
Honda Accord.
Do you know of any time during the month of October that he wasn't at home during the week?
I don't want to keep a journal of what goes on around my house from day to day. No, sir, I can't. I don't know. I don't, just when I see his car there, and it's there most of the time.
Do you know if he was there in November most of the time?
Pardon me?
Do you know if he was there in November most of the time?
Yeah.
Do you know if there were nights when he wasn't there?
No, I don't know that.
further questions?
Nothing further this week.
This can be excused, thank you.
We call Mike Levin.
Do you swear or affirm that the evidence you shall give to this panel in this challenge now in hearing wherein Cnty, Peter Orthman, and Timothy Malone are the challengers, and C. John Ledford is the challenge candidate, shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
State your name, please.
James Michael Ledford.
Where do you live, sir?
I live at 345 Sycamore Ridge Drive, Marshall, North Carolina.
And are you the one that's commonly known as the smart electric boy?
That's me?
You are the twin of one John Ledford.
Yes.
Now, the address that you gave us, that's not in Fort Valley.
No, sir, it's not H. Green community.
Do you have occasion to regularly come visit your mom?
I do. Since my father passed away, I make it a point to visit her at least once or twice a week.
And do you, at least to some degree, keep up with your brother's whereabouts?
Yes, sir, I do. We talk on a regular basis, and when I go visit my mother, most of the time my brother's around.
Now, where has your brother lived since late September 2015?
Without question, he's living next door to my mother.
Apartments fully furnished?
Yes, sir.
When you go pop in to see your mother, do you typically see your brother too, if he's about?
A lot of times when he sees me, he'll come over to Mama's. Sometimes I'll go over to see him.
Now, is there any doubt in your mind, sir, that your brother was living in that apartment October of 2013?
No doubt.
Any doubt in your mind he was living there in November of 2013?
No doubt.
Those have been my questions.
Approximately, with ballpark figure, how many times did you visit over at your mother's property during October of 2013?
Like I said, at least a couple of times a week. Some, possibly 3 or 4 times. I mean, I was down there on a regular basis.
How about for November of 2013?
The same.
And December of 13, the same as well?
Yes, sir.
Did you ever stay overnight at the apartment on your mother's property any time during those 3 months with your brother?
I may have stayed one night when she fell and hurt her arm. I can't recall.
I'm no further questions.
Nothing further this week.
Thank you, Mr. Ledford.
We call Roy Ledford.
You swear or affirm that the evidence you shall give to this panel in this challenge now in hearing, wherein Cnty, Peter Orthman, and Timothy Malone are the challengers, and C. John Ledford is the challenge candidate, shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Would you state your name, please?
Roy Pender Ledford Jr.,
Where do you live?
6439 U.S. Highway 23, Mars Hill.
What do you do for a living?
Own and operate Ledford Enterprises.
And is that the business that has been alternatively referred to as the store and Ledford's?
That's 1060 on Mars Hill Highway. That's the store.
And is that near what has been referred to as the apartment or the apartment?
Across the road, down the front.
Are they visible from each other?
Yes, they are.
Do you have a relationship with, a kinship with this individual?
First cousin.
And did you have a business relationship with their father?
20 or 30 years.
Were you partners in what was Ledford Enterprise?
Yes, with Mike.
And with James at one time?
Right.
Now, do you know where John Ledford was living in October 2015?
Above the store. I go by it every morning, 7:30,
See the vehicle?
both cars. One in the garage and the Honda in the driveway.
And how about November, do you know where he was living?
I go to work every morning at 7:30, 5 days a week. It's there every morning.
Some mornings would he come and join,
He'd come to get his Mountain Dew to get woke up in the morning, a lot of times pretty early,
and would you call that a regular occurrence?
pretty regular. If we had a drink, he would come to get it. Sometimes we'd run out of his drink, but we don't usually.
I believe those have been requested.
You say that you saw Mr. Ledford's car there at the apartment each morning?
99% of the time, his car's there.
Well, 99 or 100%?
My car's at my house 100% of the time in the morning at 7:30.
The times that you passed, close to every time that you passed.
Close to
you saw it.
99% of the time, it was there.
Did it ever change which spot it was in? Parking spot?
The Mustang you keep talking about, it stays in the garage. He drives the Honda on a daily basis. I mean, the Mustang's 87 model Mustang, that's still a car, but the Honda is his car he drives, it's there.
I understand that. But when you pass by and see
It's different spots,
it's different spots.
right. He don't bring his patrol car home. I don't think that's policy. He has to drive his own car to work.
From your store, how clear can you see the apartment?
Straight shot.
I'm the first question.
Have none for this witness.
Thank you, sir. May I be excused?
At this time, the respondent is considering the respondent witness.
Mr. Wells, point of procedure.
We would offer basically various exhibits that have been
Sir, at this time, do you have any additional evidence?
There's no strike on.
I guess we wait the other.
Mr. Wells, at this point, we're going to proceed to closing statements. Okay, at this point, we're going to proceed to closing statements.
I just have a few comments in closing. It's been a very long day, so I'm going to make this very brief, very direct.
We appreciate that. Thank you, sir.
We've covered a lot of different sections of North Carolina law today. We've covered numerous exhibits, a lot of different statements and testimony from the witnesses. We talked about before how Mr. Ledford and his counsel have the burden of proof in this matter by a preponderance of the evidence of the record as a whole. That's stated in the North Carolina its domicile. There is a three-pronged test that we have that's given to us in the statute, in General Statute 163-127.5B, numbers 1 through 3. Number 1 of that statute is an actual abandonment of the first domicile, coupled with intent not to return to the first domicile. Number 2 of that statute is the acquisition of a new domicile by actual residence at another place. And lastly, the third point, the intent of making the newer domicile a permanent domicile. It does not say anything in that statute about that being a domicile test, but we have a body of case law handed down to us from the courts of North Carolina stating that that's exactly what it is. From Chapman to Hall to the more recent decision of Farnsworth. Part of this case law states that the resident and domicile are very different. A person can have any number of residences, places where they maintain, a place where they can keep their things. But one can only have one domicile at one time. A domicile, more commonly known as a permanent home, the place you call your home, the place where you go home, where that is. Although Mr. Ledford has testified and said that he has always intended to come back to Madison County one day and identifies himself as a person from Madison County and someone who is proud of his heritage here in Madison County, that simply, for purposes of the domicile test, is just not enough. That is a very great thing to be proud of. But that intent in and of itself is not enough for the domicile test that we do in the statute. For a point in time, whenever Mr. Ledford left Madison County to go and work in Raleigh, if he was to return home to western North Carolina, it would not be the apartment at 2611 Old Mars Hill Highway, which he would go and stay overnight, where his things would be what you would commonly call a home or a permanent abode there. He would stay with his wife in Barnesville, or perhaps some other place in Madison County, as we've seen from the testimony of numerous witnesses and family members who claim him to be a friend, family, or wife family. During that time, the apartment could not have been his domicile. Mr. Fish was living there. Mr. Fish's things were there. Mr. Ledford's things, personal effects, were not there. Some were there in storage in the basement. Some were there on the property of his mother's home. But they were not there in the apartment where Mr. Ledford's claim that he's living now. So that could not be his domicile as of that time. So the arguments having to do with Mr. Ledford's domicile never changing from Madison County should not find favor in the eyes of this board. When he returned to Madison County and moved into this apartment, I asked that the board treat Mr. Ledford's statements having to do that with skepticism as well. Not because of Mr. Ledford's testimony has been impeached, but simply because of statements in Hall v. Wakeford and the County of Elections saying that a candidate's own opinion when it comes to where he desires for purposes of these challenges should be met with that skepticism. I know that Mr. Ledford is not a stranger to anyone on the board. I know that for some of you have passed with Mr. Ledford, you'll have a future with Mr. Ledford living here in the same community. I ask simply that you consider all the evidence as a whole. Consider Mr. Ledford's testimony and that of all the other witnesses, the numerous exhibits. Whenever you consider this question as to whether Mr. Ledford returned to the apartment at 2611 Old Marsville Highway as his permanent home or forever on, from then on, as his domicile for purposes of this candidacy challenge for sheriff of Madison County. I thank you for your time. Those are all of my closing arguments.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Lee?
May we ask what happened to Mr. Ouija Wickarama?
Yes, you may.
I'm curious.
I don't see how anything could be more important than what's happening right here in this courthouse right now. But Mr. Wickarama needed to leave to catch a flight to Washington, D.C. and has left me here in his stead. So here I stand.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Lee, the floor is yours.
I certainly agree that there's nothing more important happening than this today. To that end, with the board's permission, I would like to hand up what is truly a very brief brief as to what I believe facts are in this case and what the law is. First, I'm going to differ with my table about what's a more difficult standard to challenge or prove. It's not domicile, it's residency. Domicile, particularly as you deal with a person such as Mr. Ledford, who has been here since he was the age of 2, essentially, who has served as sheriff here for 11 years. Somebody asked this question. I didn't ask it. That was a very astute question. I don't remember what his opposing counsel, one of you gentlemen, did he get challenged as a voter or as a candidate when he was running for sheriff? Nothing's changed. There is law which specifically says that a person going to work for the state of North Carolina does not constitute a change of domicile. It doesn't say you have to maintain a residence in the county that you claim is your domicile. That's why the governor can vote back in Mecklenburg County. That's why when Larry Leak and his dad, Larry Leak goes off to school at the university, his dad goes to work in Raleigh, and they vote in Madison County. None of our Republican friends ever challenged that vote. They knew the Leaks were Madison County folk. I submit that all of Madison County, except a very few, know this is a Madison County land. And with all due respect, Sheriff Harwood is a good sheriff. John Ledford was a good sheriff. It's not for three folks to say, hey, we want to get elected off the ballot. My civics teacher back here, I'm sure, would cast some aspersions at Mr. Ledford for not voting. Those of you who know me well probably know my cheeks turn red when I learn that. But that doesn't disqualify him as a candidate. That doesn't mean that the people of Madison County should not have the right to vote for or against him, if that's what they wish to do. Now, there's a concept in our law that says you evaluate the evidence based upon what you hear in here, and you also, fact finders, are entitled to consider that which somebody clearly could have brought you, but didn't. Now, we had some discussion about the estranged wife, the estranged spouse. You know, there's been no challenge to what Mr. Ledford has said. The council himself said they have not been able to contradict what he said. But they kept going through this list, and it's in your book, and I would point out, Mr. Laws, and appreciate your help. Anything in that book, like there's a narrative of evidence, or a summary of evidence. Well, that ain't evidence. That's what somebody was saying the evidence was going to show. And it's for you gentlemen to decide whether it does or not. Not that statement. That ain't evidence. And you know, you've got this black and red X's over this time period. And an effort to get that in by way of an affidavit that I challenge. I think everybody saw who signed that affidavit. The Chief Deputy Sheriff of Madison County, Michael Garrison, who came and sat down in that jury box just a few minutes ago. And they never offered to put him on the stand. Now, folks, if there's any doubt about which side has presented the truth in this case, I think that's the nail in the coffin. We put all kinds of folks of various levels of education, various degrees of kinship, and I don't know whether they're elected supporters for sheriff or not. I suspect more of them are than aren't. But there's been nothing to suggest that 9/11, or Mrs. North, or Jack Barrett, or Mr. Fish, or any of these other people have not spoken the truth. I respectfully say to you, gentlemen, a couple of things. One, thank you for putting up with me and not peculiarities as to the way I do things. You've been most patient, and I appreciate it. Two, I say to folks when they ask me or want to make fun about Madison County and how we view politics, this and that. Yeah, we like to fight around election time. We take it pretty seriously. We'd rather win than lose. But for the most part, we like each other. defense, it's been my experience. You know, I expect I've been jumped on with the best of them, by the best of them. And if I got jumped on by a non-Madison County person, the Madison County folks were with me. It's kind of their attitude, by God, we might jump on you. In fact, you probably think you need jumped on. But it's not for somebody else to do that jumping. We'll take care of that. You know, for 3 people to choose a challenge that they probably could have made 4 years ago, I mean, they could have made it. Anybody, I could go in and challenge somebody and get this man disqualified and not let the folks of Madison County speak to who they want to be the sheriff. They just crumble. So with that said, I again thank you for your patience. I believe that you gentlemen will, I certainly hope that you will, find John Ledford as a duly qualified candidate. And I reinforce, that's all you're saying. You're not saying should be sheriff, ought to be sheriff. I'm just saying he's a duly qualified candidate, and he certainly is. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. All right, at this time, this closes up the evidentiary portion of closing statements for this hearing. At this time, should we just take a break to review this? Or do you just want to consider the context? Okay. At this point, we are going to move on to deliberations. And I would like to hold my comments for a moment to see what other board members think.
Are you ready to, or do we?
Purposes, if you close the evidentiary, you may want to
You can excuse the court reporter.
since this is not happening before.
And ma'am, thank you very much for your service today. It's been a long day. Thank you very much.
It'll take me a few minutes to pack up,
I was
so
gonna say, you better
either go
stay
right
right
ahead or
there.
I'll just keep going. It's gonna.
Okay.
That time's right. Let's, folks, I believe it's about 4:25. Let's take about a 10-minute break, then reconvene.
I can't hardly see that. Can you see that far?
I can see a little bit, yeah.
It's after. I've got to take a look.
Yeah.